Hello, my name is Caroline Nettle and my website is spiritualgrowthtools.co.uk, and today's video is about the quest for authenticity and the role of projections in that quest. And this has come about after a conversation with one of my clients, because in one of the sessions that I do, which is Body Talk, which is a form of healing, which really helps you to discover the underlying causes for a lot of illnesses, pains, emotional pains, etc. And since 2005, I've been helping people recover from, emotional, physical, spiritual, and mental disorders or issues with this wonderful healing modality. A client sent me a message and it was all about the fact that I said that something had been projected onto her. And it was really interesting to me because it was a very big reaction, and so I started explaining to her the role of projections in our lives, and it dawned on me that perhaps this was something that could be good to share. So her premise was that nobody was able to project anything onto her because she knew who she was. And I explained to her that we are projected onto from basically conception by parents and well-wishers and society. And one of the things that I learnt on my journey was that I very often walk down the street and say in my head, oh, that lady's really good looking, or her shoes are dirty, or that man should pull his jeans up, I don't want to see his backside, or oh, that's a nice haircut. So there's almost a running commentary from me as I'm walking past people in the street. And what I'm doing is projecting onto them my opinion. So that's a really banal way that we can get projections from other people. The other thing is, for example, if you take a celebrity, and I'm just trying to think of a really good... Okay, let's take Kylie Minogue. Wonderful, wonderful woman. Probably the most loved by women, men and gay men icon in our era. She is universally adored. Well, underneath all that adoration, she is literally just a human being, but we all project our wishes and wants and criticism and judgment onto her, and the, if you like, the image of her that we are, or one is worshipping or criticising. If you take Donald Trump, that's a very good example, if you like, of someone who can rouse extreme opinions. His behaviour is either really pleasing or really odious, depending on your stance. So we all have judgments of him and criticisms of him, and we continually project these onto him because he's one of the most powerful men in the world. So that is just a really, for me, a really good example of how projections happen. Then, of course, we have intimate relationships where you've met someone and you take all your expectations and you project them onto this hapless individual and expect him to live up to all your standards, which is almost impossible. And you do this unconsciously because you want him to be the way you want him to be, or you want her to be the way you want her to be. And the way to mend that part of you, and that could be an intimate relationship, it could equally be family or friends or people you don't know. And the way to learn to stop having these false expectations of someone and their behaviour and how they're going to treat you is to learn to see what's actually in front of you before you put all your projections onto them. So, for example, oh, it's just got really sunny. Let me just move this a little bit so I'm not frowning too much. So, for example, you know, really asking someone who they are, what they think about various different subjects, what their relationship is with their family, and just finding out who they are before you put your almost fairy tale expectations onto that person and expect them to live out your expectations. So we've got intimate relationships, family, famous people, and then we have, for example, parents and schooling. This is a really big time in our lives when we have projections. My mother wanted 3 lawyers. That's what she put us all through, really expensive education. She sent us all to university, of course. That's what you do in my family. And I don't think she ever said, what would you like to be? Who are you? You know, what are you good at? What do you enjoy? Any questions like that. So I sadly disappointed her, as did both of my sisters. But that's a different story. But yeah, it would have been really easy for me to, because she was my mother and she brought me up, to do exactly what she wanted me to do, which was become a lawyer. Anybody that knows me or loves me knows that the legal profession would be disastrous for me, because I can't stand lying and I don't suffer fools gladly, and I'm really perceptive. And I think for me it would be really difficult to say, but he's lying, you know, in a court of law. So I've taken a different path, of course. But so our parents put onto us what they perhaps would have wanted, or they they were aspiring to. The other thing is, they are obviously, most parents, not all, but most parents want the very best for their child, and they come from a place where they were probably projected onto as well, expectations and so on, so they don't know any difference. So all parents, I believe, nearly all parents, most parents do the best that they can for their children. It may not be good for their children and it may not be what their children need, but the parents, I believe, are mainly trying to bring their children up to survive in our world. So projections then, it's a really huge subject. And when we're trying to be authentic and live a life of authenticity, one of the things that's really important to do is to really look at the aspects of you, or the belief systems that you have about yourself. So, for example, let's take me and the law thing. If I had become a lawyer, heaven forbid, if I had become a lawyer because that's what my mother wanted for me, there would have come a time, I'm absolutely sure, where I'd have been sitting in a law chamber or a law office, or having just, you know, been in a law court, and I would have what I would call a mental breakdown, because it is so far removed from who I am and what I want to do. And at some stage I would have woken up to the fact that law was not for me. Thankfully I saved myself that angst. But so very often we can follow in our parents' footsteps. Both my parents were teachers. I, for the longest time, was trying really hard not to be a teacher, and effectively what I do is now teach, which is ironic. So very often they want for us what is not for us. So when you become authentic, it's all about, okay, really discovering who you are, getting rid of those belief systems which really are nothing to do with you. They're your parents or your school or your society. And one of the best way to do that is whenever the word should comes out of my mouth or comes into my mind, I say, says who. So you should do this, says who. So shoulding is really something I try and avoid, because some social norms expect that this is what you do, but if that doesn't suit your personality, give yourself permission to be who you are, most definitely. So I always use that, says who says that I have to XYZ, whatever it is. what else do I need to say about projection? Yes, so we have had through possibly many lifetimes, certainly this lifetime, many ideas, expectations, things that hold us back, things that make us conform to an ideal that perhaps we don't agree with. And if you get onto the spiritual path, one of the words that immediately became apparent to me when I started looking at this was authenticity. And yes, for me it was a big wake-up call, because I found that I was living the belief systems of two people, my parents, who they are, you know, great people, but they aren't me, and they didn't really understand me, and you know, they were both quite Victorian in their outlook, so children should be seen and not heard, blah blah blah. I had to learn to find my voice. I had to learn that I could give myself permission to have emotions, to say what I thought, to be who I am. And one of the things I know strongly about me is I'm an outside the box, never colour in the lines, you know, free thinker who can't stand to be confined. So being brought up colouring in the lines and, you know, doing all of those things, but having discovered that this is who I am, it's made it a lot easier to follow a path that feels right for me. So yes, I think that's pretty much what I want to say about projection. One of the things, as I mentioned Body Talk at the beginning of this video, one of the things that Body Talk is very good is for getting rid of, or helping you to remove, the underlying enormous belief systems, which can very often be subconscious or unconscious, that are holding you back from being who you are. So some of those have been projected onto you, some of them you have decided during your lifetime and what's happened to you, but freedom comes when you can really remove belief systems that no longer serve you. So if that's something that's of interest, then please do go to spiritualgrowthtools.co.uk, look for Healing with Body Talk, and either send me a message via the website or get in touch with me on Facebook. We are Spiritual Growth Tools on there, so please do have a look there. And yeah, if you have any questions at all, just get in touch and I will be able to help you. So thank you for watching, and this video has been all about how to get rid of the projections that have been projected onto you that perhaps are holding you back in your life. Thank you.